like out there, they say like, oh no, team sports is quite different from individual sports, but let's just use this as an example. Okay, a team sport, it's usually like a club, like a team or like a yeah, let's call it a club. Say we're talking about the LA Lakers. If they have their own facility, their own like physios, massage, rehab, strength and conditioning coaches. They have their own coaches, um, and like it's like their practices and their facilities are obviously limited to their own the players that they have signed. You're just a random person cannot just walk into practice. You know, MMA is definitely not like this for sure. You know, it's still kind of amateurish in that sense. Where fighters, athletes just kind of have their own. They pay out of their pocket. To hire like a strength and conditioning coach or like a massage therapist, rehab physio. Whatever the case may be. It's not like there is somebody or even the government that's like arranging this for them. They have to kind of find their own way and find what suits them best. Because the current state of affairs in mixed martial arts in almost every country in the world, is that it is not a government sponsored sport. There are some countries where I want to say like in the Russian areas where like the government does at the minimum. I don't know if they really sponsor the athletes and like pay them to live and stuff like that, but they definitely do reward them with some financial incentives when they succeed in the sport. So but these countries, for example, maybe like ex-Soviet countries such as Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, T- uh, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. I'm sorry if I don't get these names right, but yeah, these countries, I think that the government does provide some financial incentives for the athletes to do well. But even for overall in like for the rest of the world, say the Western world, United States, UK, Australia, even Brazil, Korea, Japan, China, like a lot of these athletes are honestly self-funded. Like they have to they're not really incentivized by the government to pursue the sport as like a profession. So as a result of this, like I said earlier, these athletes have to kind of hire their own coaches and you know it's kind of like it's all over, it can be all over the place. um well, the good thing about this is that you are able to expose yourself to a lot more people and a lot more training partners. Because a lot of these athletes probably jump from gym to gym, to train with to get as many looks as possible, to train with as many different training partners as possible. Mixed martial arts requires a very diverse skill set, such as just as a framework. There's Muay Thai, there's boxing, there's Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, there's wrestling, and you also have to mix all of these arts together. So a lot of gyms don't actually offer all these services. So as a fighter, you have to go around and find a coach for a different discipline. Which means going to different gyms, and because of this, like the fighter is exposed to a lot more bodies and a lot more style, a lot more techniques. Then allows the sport to grow. Um, the if you ever heard the theory of osmosis, you learn from your surroundings. You pass on information from one person to the other, And when you're able to train with a lot of people with different body types, different age, different strength, different skill, different height, whatever, um, your knowledge and your experience like gets increased like dramatically, and we'll compare this to other sports where let's say like soccer or basketball, you know, you can you're probably only training with like say how many people there are on the team, like 20 people on a team, and these people never change, like you're stuck with the same group of people for like the whole season, and whereas in mixed martial arts or even like any combat sport in general, you can be exposed to like 20 different people like in a different day, and the next day you go to another gym and you're exposed to another 20 people, and so imagine how much contact you're getting with different ideas, different bodies, so the less professional side of combat sports kind of allows the sport to grow at a much quicker pace. Say you're playing for the LA Lakers, you want to get new ideas. You can't just go to another team like the New York Knicks, just to train with the other, just to train with the Knicks. That's like impossible. You'd probably get fired if you ever did that. So yeah, that's a good thing about like mixed martial arts, and that's why you see the sport that is growing at the rate it is. Um, so yeah, nowadays even there's not many gyms where it's closed off to the public. Um, there are gyms that like there's I can on the top of my head I only think there's probably around at most 5 gyms that does not open its doors to the casual. I know there's a few in Florida, like American Top Team or like Killcliff, where it's like professional fighters only. So it's like not anyone can go and train, and yeah, fair enough. Like if they can survive and pay the bills just from that, like like I get it, but like the reality is like for the rest of the world, most of these gyms cannot survive on its own, training only professional fighters. They have to open the doors to hobbyists, kids classes, women's classes, whatever. Like, but it's most of the of martial arts gyms in the world are not in a position to only train professional fighters. So yeah. So the question is, do you think that the MMA athlete can make more progress in a professional environment where there's not a lot of people coming in and out on a daily basis, or should the MMA fighter, expand his horizons as much as possible and look for different training partners all over the world? Let me know what you think.